Hi, everybody. Welcome to Voice in Sport. Excited to see you today. We have Marie McCool here. Very excited to have her join us. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Voice in Sport. Great to see everybody. I'm going to add in Marie here and we'll get started. Hi, everybody. Hi, Angela. Hi, Chloe. Good to see you. Hi, Marie.
Hi,
How are you?
doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Sorry I'm a minute late.
Oh, that's okay. At first, I went to join and I was like, oh no, let me reread her email and make sure she doesn't want me to like log in or anything.
No, it's my
But no
fault.
worries at all.
It's actually I'm gonna blame it on my kids. It's their fault.
That is a good excuse during quarantine. And so,
So where are you calling in from?
so I am in upstate New York right now in a
Okay.
small town called Skinny Atlas. It's about 30 minutes outside of Syracuse.
Okay. Amazing. Well, we
Yeah.
were we were close and I have escaped New York and I moved up to my hometown in Anchorage, Alaska. So that is where I am right now.
Oh, wow. I actually lived in Long Island City, and
Uh-huh.
so I escaped Manhattan pretty early on when we came up here. So I currently live there, but yeah, I had to escape.
Yeah, well, when this gets over, we should get together in person.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Well, for everybody out there, I'll do a quick little introduction to Voice in Sport and to Marie, and then we'll get started with. We got a lot of great questions. So, thank you for joining Voice in Sport. We are a new platform supporting female athletes. Our goal is to bring more visibility to female athletes like yourself, Maria, um, but also to give you a platform to drive change, to elevate your voice, and share your stories. So we're really excited we have Marie with us. And today, having a professional lacrosse player with us, currently playing for the Brave, former UNC athlete, Division One athlete. It's really exciting. I personally don't know a lot about lacrosse, but I'm learning, and I'm really excited. It's an amazing sport. It's one of the fastest growing sports for young female athletes in the U.S., and it's an exciting game. So welcome, and we're happy to have you here.
Well, yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat with you and also learn a little bit more about voice and sport. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. Thanks. Well, let's start with a little bit of your journey. I think we started Voice in Sport because we feel like there needs to be more support and better experiences for female athletes, especially during the ages of 13 through 22. And so what we hope to do is provide, untold stories and real talk. So there's no fluff when we're at Voice in Sport. We just sort of say it how it is. But let's start with your journey.
Yeah, so I was always like crazy child when I grew up. I always wanted to be active and be doing something. I never really liked watching TV or movies, or I mean, I don't even think Netflix was a thing back then, but I didn't like to sit around. And my parents kind of like joked around that they hated me for it, but at the same time, obviously loved the fact that, I always did my own thing. And I just really picked up every sport that I came in contact with. And I think it really started with soccer, Pee Wee soccer, and thought that I
Yeah,
was going to be the next Mia Hamm. And
me too.
that's really why I wanted to go to UNC. So, like, because of Mia Hamm, she was the only female athlete I really knew of because there just wasn't that much exposure back then. And with that 99 soccer team. I was born in 96. So when I was younger and started to play sports, like that soccer team was huge back then because it was, when they had won that World Cup and everything and the Olympics that they had. And so I wanted to go to UNC, wanted to be the next Mayhem. And then in third grade, I got a lacrosse stick for Christmas and I had no idea what it was, but I was like, this is fun. And so Christmas morning, I went out into my backyard and played catch with my dad. And I remember very vividly, he had his baseball mitt because, again, like we didn't grow up as like a lacrosse family. Like a lot of my friends, their parents played lacrosse and they kind of were born into it, but we didn't grow up like that. It was just really big in my town at the time, and that's how my parents heard of it. And so they got me a stick for Christmas, instantly fell in love with it. And then they signed me up for a clinic that like the following week, it was like a Christmas break clinic, and I did not put down the stick ever since. And I continued to play multiple sports. I thought that that was super important for me. And until I graduated and went to college, and just loved
Hmm.
being a part of different teams. I played soccer and basketball. And I think for me, it was important to, like, one, use different muscles, but also be exposed to different things and not constantly be playing one thing, because it made me really excited for soccer season. And then when soccer season was over, I was super, super excited for lacrosse season. And so I think like that really made me fall in love with the sports even more, and prevented me from any burnout. And then, yeah, my freshman year, the recruiting process kind of started, and I really had no idea what it was. Again, like, my sister didn't really go through it. She's older than me. Her recruiting process was a little different, and she was recruited like her senior year. And so when I was a freshman, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And all of these schools just started, you know, showing all of their interests, and I started visiting schools. And I think I visited a total of 10 schools, which is a lot.
Wow. Yeah.
My UNC coach like wasn't that happy about it. She's like, come on, when is she going to make a decision already? But I think it's important for females to like make sure that you keep your options open and you don't just go for the first option. I think that we tend to do that, and especially because we're not used to that. And I think there was a ton on the table for me, and it was really important for me to just know, like, if they really wanted me, they would wait. And so I had to keep telling myself that. And that was hard for me. I was a little nervous, but I wanted to stand my ground and make sure that the decision that I was making was the best decision for me, rather than just giving in. And so ended up choosing UNC again. Back to the Mia Hamm story. It was my dream school, and played there for 4 years. Member of the U.S. Women's National Team. I made that team right after my freshman year. Got cut a couple times before the World Cup, and then made the 18-player roster. Was the youngest one on the team. Won a World Cup in 2017, and still competing at that level, and also playing in the Women's Professional League. So that is a long version of
Amazing.
my journey.
No, it's great. And it's great to hear that you started playing so many sports, but then you actually kept with it for quite a long time. So that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty interesting because I mean, you went to one of the top schools with lacrosse, but it sounds like you played soccer and basketball for quite a while. Was there a certain point in your high school career that you said, oh, okay, I'm going to focus on trying to go to school for lacrosse?
Um, so I ended up quitting basketball after my freshman year, but I still played soccer, and I quit basketball just so I could really use that winter to take all of the visits and stuff. Because I realized that I needed time to be able to go visit these schools, and I didn't want to make a commitment to basketball and then miss practices, because I just hate missing practices. I hated missing school, any games. Like, I just wanted to make sure that I could take that time to do that. But that was really the main thing. It wasn't so I could just focus on playing lacrosse, because again, I just think it's really important to play multiple sports, and especially to avoid any burnout. Like, I play in the summer, and then in the fall I play soccer, and I have fall tournaments. So I still have my stick in my hand a little bit, but I loved playing multiple sports. I love being with different teammates rather than the same ones, and a different group of people. And that was something that, like, I never questioned. I always loved soccer and didn't want to quit until I had to go to college.
Well, that's amazing. And thank you for sharing that. And so, a lot of the girls in our community are in high school, and they're all right now trying to figure out which college they're going to go to. Some of them have committed, some of them are still deciding. So, what would be your advice for thinking about what college you want to go to, especially now when you can't travel? And so, any advice to the girls out there that are still trying to decide on where to go? Like, how do you evaluate it?
Yeah, I
So,
think that right now it's probably super tough with everything that's going on, and it's hard to, you can't see the schools and you can't visit the campus. And I just think my advice would be to be as patient as possible, because I think with things that are going on, it can be really hard to be patient because it's a high stress environment that we're living in right now. And I think that might ultimately make people want to make decisions a little bit quicker just so it's off of their plate. But My advice is really take a look at the school and make sure that it is the place that you want to be. Don't just look at the athletic side of things. Make sure that academically, if you know what you want to do or have any idea what you want to do, take a look at all the programs that they offer, because not all schools offer um, every program. Like, for example, UNC doesn't have an engineering school.
Right.
And so I think that's important. And also, just make sure like the size is right for you, the location. I always said that if I were, I knew that I would play lacrosse for 4 years, but like at the end of the day, you never know what could happen. And,
Right.
I have some of my best friends quit and they thought that they were playing for 4 years. So I always said, like, take lacrosse out of the picture. Do I see myself being here? Yes or no? And that helped me make my decision, because I was ultimately between Maryland and UNC, and they were both 1 and 2 at the time. And I fell in love with both of them. But I think just really taking a look at both schools, I think I loved the Maryland lacrosse aspect. And that was driving me there, where UNC just, I felt like it had everything else and that total package. And so I think that's just really important.
Yeah, it's great advice because you never know what's going to happen and you don't want your whole decision to be on sports
Yeah,
when you're
exactly.
going there. Um,
Exactly.
so you must have played against Taylor then,
Yes.
Maryland. We had her on like last week.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
She's like one of my best friends. We were rivals
she's
in
amazing.
college. She's a couple years older than me, so I only played against her for 2 years. But then when we played on the U.S. team together, we're on the same midi line. We're both midfielders, so she's like one of my best friends now. I talk to her every day.
Oh, so cool. That's so
Yeah.
awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
well, tell us a little bit about like that transition from like high school to college in terms of like playing. Like especially now the girls that are at home and they're like, some of them are definitely going. They've decided on their school and they've got to like get their training ready, especially on the like all the running and everything that you got to
Yeah.
do, the fitness tests when you show up. So, what would be your advice to girls that are heading into college? Like how do they have a successful first year in sports?
It's definitely tough. And so I think my first piece of advice is make sure that you're prepared, because I think like if you're one of the top players on your team and in the state, like you might go in a little bit more confident, but you honestly, when you're going to college, it's a whole new ball game. And so I think just keep your like mind open to what's to come. But I think my biggest piece of advice is control what you can control, because there are going to be so many things that are going to be out of your control, whether it's coaches' decisions, teammates, and if you get worked up about that and think negatively about all of those things that you can't control, it's just going to make things worse. And the things that you can control, like your work ethic, your
Hmm.
attitude, all of those, like those are the only things that you can control. And if you can do that, like it's going to pay off, and all of that hard work is going to pay off. And I think like one thing that I always say to the younger girls is coaches can't teach you how to work hard, and they can't teach you how to have a positive attitude. That's all on you. But what they can teach you is different skills, lacrosse related, different stick work. They can help you with your lacrosse IQ. So if you come in with like, that mentality that you're going to have a positive attitude and work as hard as you can, like coaches are going to automatically be drawn to you, because you're going to be coachable versus the players that aren't as coachable. And so I think that's really my biggest advice going into the collegiate life and student athlete life in college.
I love it. It's great advice. So what about like the adversity that you faced? Because I'm assuming that, maybe you weren't always motivated during your entire career from like picking up a stick in third grade to now being a professional and on Team USA. So did you ever have moments where you weren't motivated or you thought about quitting? And if so, like how did you overcome those moments?
Yeah, so that's actually like going off of what we just talked about, like going into college, that's where it really hit me. My fall freshman year was probably like the worst semester out of my 4 years there, because I was coming in as, and I always say that rankings mean nothing, and I absolutely believe in that, but I was coming in as the number one midfielder in the country. And that for me, like, put a lot of pressure on me, and
I bet.
I wanted to live up to that hype, because I don't like letting people down, and I don't like letting myself down or my coaches down, who recruited me and believed in me and like wanted me to come to UNC because they thought that I was going to be this like have a huge impact on the program immediately. And like, I didn't, and it was hard because I was just letting all that get to me, and the things that were out of my control, I was letting that have a negative impact on me as a player and a person. And I just was worrying and worrying and worrying. And when I start to worry about things, I start to do too much. I start to definitely play nervous rather than just play. And
Right.
it was challenging for sure, because I still felt like I had to live up to being that number one midfielder in the country, and I wasn't doing it. And it just made everything worse. And then academically, it was a huge transition. I was a pretty good student in high school, and I knew that college was going to be hard, especially attending one of the best public schools in the nation. But it's very different, and I think it's mainly, that's again all mental. It's how am I going to be able to manage my time? And I think that's really where things started to fall through the cracks, is when I was stressed out about lacrosse. It was really hard for me to like then put my studying cap on and make sure
Right.
that I'm preparing for exams and stuff. And so I think that was really where things were really tough for me. And I wanted to transfer. I kept thinking, like, why didn't I go to Maryland? It's closer to home. I should have went there. I also was recruited by Penn, and my parents were like, you should go to Penn, because I grew up right outside of Philadelphia. So Penn's campus is like 20 minutes from my hometown. And so I just kept like second guessing myself, like, why the heck did I choose UNC? And it was really tough. Like, there were definitely a lot of tears in my in my dorm room.
Dorm room.
Yeah, and then
Gotta
like,
love those first year dorm rooms.
yeah, dorm room, a lot of tears. And then I also remember me just like, when I went home for fall break, like, I did not want to go back to school. It was terrible. And yeah, so it was really tough. But then spring came around, and like, I had an honest conversation with my coach and just said, like, this is what I'm feeling right now. Like, what do you expect from me? Like, how can I turn things around? And like, it was a very helpful conversation. And like, I just went out there and played with um like a chip on my shoulder, kind of, and I wasn't thinking too much. And then I ended up like I say, like maybe halfway through the season, I ended up being a starter. And then by the end of the year, I was on the all rookie team. And then I actually made the US national team right after that season. So things picked up very quickly from that first semester. And I, like, from then on, every fall break, I couldn't wait to go back to school. So I don't want to scare anyone, but I just think that, like I said earlier, that's why my advice is to make sure you're prepared, no matter what happened in high school or the type of student or athlete you were. College is definitely different no matter where you go. And so I just, that's why I give that advice, is because I definitely had a really rough transition. But I wouldn't change a thing about it, because I learned so much from it. And I
Yeah.
think that like, it's helped me so much, like, grow as an individual. And yeah, so I'm happy that I stayed at UNC, and I'm happy that I went through that experience, because I think it really made me realize that I'm not invincible. And that's important for me, because I am very competitive. And so yeah, that was definitely really hard and one of the low points. But again, all positives from it, because it's helped shape me into who I am today.
Totally. I mean, you grow sometimes from like the hardest times, like yeah, right, even right now for all of us, we're all growing in some way. We might not recognize it right now,
Yeah,
but we'll recognize it when we come out on the other end. So
exactly.
if you would have like given yourself advice then, just to say, hey, Marie, like heading into your first year, just do X, Y, and Z, because it sounds like it was more mental, like it was more of like your attitude, if I'm
Hmm.
right from what you said, than it was about like your skill.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was way more mental than physical, because I was like the only freshman that passed the run test. I was one of the top runners on the team, probably, like, if not the top runner on the team my freshman year. So it was not physical at all. And I've always like been motivated to work out and make sure that I'm staying fit. It was all mental for sure.
So what have you learned along the way, especially being part of Team USA? I'm sure you get like some tips from like sports psychs and like even just your other professional colleagues. Like what would be advice you can pass on to these girls about like how to stay mentally agile, how to stay mentally tough? Like do you write? Do you set goals? Like do you visualize? What are the tools that you use?
Yeah, I like to visualize, and I think that so my coach at UNC, we did meditation and visualization before every single practice. And I think that's like where I picked it up because again, in high school I wasn't I didn't even know what visualization was. Like it's just I just went out there and played like, oh yeah, like
Yeah.
I went to the top school in the country, top public school in high school for lacrosse. And so I was like, all right. But like I said, college is a whole new ballgame, so you have to adapt different tools and ideas to stay on top of your mental game. And visualization was one that I had learned there. And I think
Marie,
it's
what would be like the let's just say not everybody gets to go to that school at that level. Could you walk us through what that would be like? So the girls that are staying at home, let's just say, okay, they're getting up right now, they're about to like head into their workout, they're going to try to do something at home. Like, what is the visualization activities that you guys would do?
so I mean, we would visualize like the future and what we were working towards. So
Hmm.
for me, it's like why do I want to go work out? And then I would visualize like the future. So the games, and I know that you said like at a different level, but for the US team, like me winning a World Cup and playing certain opponents, or even like the littlest things like picking up a ground ball that's going to seal the game. So I think that's important too, just the small details and not just the end result
Yeah.
is super important, especially for what you're planning on working on that day specifically. And I think that's really what we practiced a lot and what I like to do, especially right before games. But I think now, just to relate it to the time that we're going in now, or the time that we're in now, it's really hard to visualize the future because we have no idea like what are we working towards if we don't even know when we're going to be able to escape quarantine. For me, like I have no clue when I'm going to be able to play again. And so for me, what I'm doing to stay motivated is honestly just like connecting with my teammates. It's
Yeah.
like connecting with them is keeping me so motivated because like they're the reason why I do what I do and why I love doing what I do is playing with my teammates and my coaches. And so like Taylor and I always send workouts to each other every day, and like
Nice.
I see their workouts on Instagram, so I'm like, ooh, I want to do it. And so like hold yourself accountable with your teammates and use each other to stay motivated right now. I think that's super important and something that we've been doing.
That's awesome. I can't remember now. I have to go back and look at the lives, but I thought that Taylor said she was using a broomstick and putting like weights on it and making it into
Oh my
weights.
gosh.
No, she promised, I think it was her, because I thought she said she was promising that she was going to post that. So I'm going to have to circle back. Um,
That's funny.
but that's
Creative.
awesome. That's like a great idea. Like share with your friends what you're doing.
Yeah,
Because we can all be creative in this time.
exactly. Exactly.
Um, okay, let's transition to another topic. I mean, I see a lot of girls on here from New York. I miss you guys all. Hi, India, everybody. Let's talk a little bit about confidence and when as it relates to your body. This is a
Hmm.
topic that's like really important, I think, for us in sports, is just being like aware that society sometimes reflects a certain image that
Yeah.
women should be, and it doesn't always marry up or match to your particular body. So, can you just talk a little bit about your own journey with your body? And did you have any struggles? And like, what could you share to the girls out there that might be facing some challenges in that area?
Yeah, I mean, it is such a huge topic right now. And I think, social media is absolutely made it that big of a topic because now that we have access to Instagram and all of these different people who post pictures and models that have skinny legs, and we have these like thick muscular legs, and it's hard. I mean, like I absolutely have, had some body image issues because of Instagram, because I see all these models in bikinis and then I'm like, wow, I wish I looked like that in a bikini. But when you really think about it, I wouldn't be able to do what I do if I looked like that. And so
Yeah.
I think like it's a really, really tough subject. And I think that there's this like image that females are supposed to look like, and that we feel like we're supposed to look like, but that's not the truth at all. And I've really come to terms of accepting my body. And I think that it's so important for all girls in sports and girls in general to know that like you are beautiful the way you are, and like being strong is beautiful. And I think that like that's something that I remind myself every single day. And it's important for girls to know that. And I love what I do. I love being an athlete, and I would not trade my thick legs for anything.
Yeah.
At all. I love them, and they make me run faster on the field. And so that's super important. And so yeah, I just think that, you know, it is important for all girls to know that and understand that, you know, you are beautiful the way you are, and we are all made differently. No one's the same, and no body's the same, and that's okay. And yeah, strong is the new skinny, and beautiful.
Yes, I love that. And it's true. I think it's just important to like remember sometimes certain outlets of media are going to always show one specific body type. And
Mhm.
they're just going to hammer it home and hammer it home. And so then people, you know, people think, oh, that must be the norm. That must be what's beautiful. And it's so important if you ever catch yourself looking at that and saying, oh, that is the beautiful, to just like catch yourself and say, actually, no, stop. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
there are all forms of beauty out there. And I think female athletes are really beautiful.
I
So
agree.
I tell my daughter, who's 6, every night before she goes to bed, I'm like, you're strong, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're kind, and I like make her repeat it.
Yeah. No,
Because
it's true.
I think it's so important to get that mentality like from the beginning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think like in college, that's when I struggled with it the most, because
Yeah, me
I
too.
put on all this weight. And um I mean, not all of it was from lifting weights, obviously, but like I got really bulky and put on a lot of weight. And that's when Instagram really started to become popular. And all of these other girls were posting pictures at spring break in their bikinis. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I wore a bathing suit right now, like, oh, gross. And like, I, and I like, like, I struggled so hard with it. Like, I definitely think that I had like eating problems too, like, to be quite
Yep.
honest. Like, I would binge eat, and it was not health like it's not healthy for me. And like I definitely had some eating disorders, in the sense where I would like try to not eat that much or not eat breakfast, but then at nighttime I would catch myself eating a lot, and it just wasn't healthy at all. And I definitely wasn't living my life stress free. I was always stressed out about what I was eating. And
Yep.
like I would work out extra to try and work it off. And it's not a healthy lifestyle at all. And so that's why I just think it's so important, like you said, to stress that like there's not a certain body type that is the norm and that is beautiful, and that we all have different body types. And I think now like I am the happiest I've ever been, because I don't even think about that stuff anymore. Like
Yeah.
I love eating, and I love it so much. And I just love just going out and going to different places and not even thinking about it. And like, I'm the happiest I've ever been with myself and my body now. And so it's just super important to stress that to young girls. And especially, I think that, you know, sometimes girls tend to not participate in sport solely because of that and the body image. And that's why I really think it's important, so we can keep the participation rate up and keep
Totally.
sport.
Exactly. That's why we're talking about it. Because I think, you know, even just hearing honestly from you, one of the best players in the world in your sport, just being open about the experiences that you had. We are literally all going to go through it. So it's just about being like real, being able to talk about it, being vulnerable to ask for help. You know,
Mhm.
and that first year in college can be super tough because you are leaving like sort of like the normal routine you're used to. You're going to start lifting, and then you have to also figure out how to eat well. So throughout the years of being a professional and, you know, former Division 1 athlete, like what have you learned about nutrition? And this will be sort of our last question, because we're done with our 30 minutes. But like, what have you learned from your nutrition that we can pass on to these young female athletes so that as they head into their first couple years, maybe they can have a better experience than we did?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a really important topic because when I was younger and in high school, I could eat whatever I wanted and still go run and compete and play well and physically feel fine after. But when you transition to that life in college, it's definitely different. And so nutrition is so, so important. And you want to make sure that you are replenishing your body with the correct things, and like we need to make sure that we're hydrating all the time and getting enough sleep as well. I think sleep goes with nutrition.
Yeah,
And you know, before and after games, like what we fuel our body with is gonna definitely be so, so important for how you, it's gonna like help you perform on the field, and it's going to help your performance and make you have the correct energy levels and help you in the weight room, like even just for your lifts, help you build that muscle and recover properly, avoid injury. It is so, so important. And so you know, we had great resources at Carolina, but I think that like make sure you use your resources if you have them wherever you go, because we had registered dietitians on staff that would help us and make meal plans for us and answer any
great.
questions that we might have. And so my advice is really just to use those resources as much as possible, because we personally aren't trained to create like meal plans for ourselves. And when you have those people who can help you with that, it's really important. And I loved my RD and getting meal plans from her, and they were delicious. So it's so, so, so important to fuel your body with the right things in order to compete at a high level and perform, and honestly, most importantly, avoid injury as well.
Totally. And that's like another point is like everybody's body is going to be different too with what the fuel of nutrition they need. And so being able to like take some time and know that that's going to be like an important component to playing well, regardless of what level you're at. And then sitting down and trying to figure out, okay, what is the right mix? What is the right food for like my body? So critical.
Yeah, and that goes back to you know, body image struggles and everything too. Like those, obviously when you aren't eating properly, it's going to have a direct impact on your play, and that's why it's also important to accept like athletes are going to eat differently than people who aren't
Totally.
hurting that much. And like we are constantly staying active. Like the steps that I had in one day from like going to lift in the morning and then walking to class and then walking home and practice, like I needed to eat way more in college than I do now. And so it's also important to know that and realize that you need to make sure that you're filling your body with the right things. And it's super, super important.
So great. Well, thank you so much, Marie, for joining us. And I'm really excited to continue the conversation on Voice in Sport podcast, which has not launched yet, but we will share with everybody when we launch it on Apple and Spotify in a couple weeks. And we're going to go deeper in these topics because we really think these are the things that we need to all hear as female athletes so that we can kind of be there for each other. So Marie, thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for everybody for joining us. And please follow and support. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.